That brings us to the media's part in all this. The murder of Trayvon Martin is as clear-cut a case of murder as can be, but the media was resistant to picking up the story. It was social media that put Trayvon Martin on the map. As usual, the white media brought up the rear. Then again, when's the last time the white media did a story on a missing or dead black child? They've also refused to call Zimmerman the killer, even though that's what he did. They say that such language is prejudicial, but they've had no problem trying to smear Trayvon Martin, even though he is the victim. From the start, we've had the media tell us, let's not rush to judgment. Gee, does anyone remember the media telling people not to rush to judgment during the O.J. Simpson trial? Another line they've pushed is, the facts about this case haven't all come out yet. Which we all know is white code for, we've tried to let Zimmerman off the hook, but that hasn't worked, so we need more time to try to find some dirt on the black kid. As Bob Herbert reported 3 years ago, the white media has long had a hostile and racist stance where the issue of dead black children is concerned. Make no mistake, the media has picked sides in this case, and they've taken the side of the murderer. The coverage of this atrocity has been sparse and inconsistent. The 5 national networks have treated it as a one-day event, trying to bury it as quickly as they could. The so-called cable news networks have been far worse, only devoting the occasional one-minute story to it. Perhaps you've noticed that your precious liberal commentators aren't covering this story very much. Where's Keith Olbermann's wall-to-wall coverage? Rachel Maddow, Stephanie Miller, Randy Rhodes, who herself broadcast from Florida? About the only left-wingers to cover this story have been Ed Schultz and Lawrence O'Donnell, who, to his credit, correctly characterized Trayvon's murder as an execution. He's the only one who's asked any real questions of Zimmerman's would-be supporters. The Zimmerman camp's defense has been laughable. Every statement they make contradicts the one that came before it. Their narrative has been a twisted pretzel of a lie that even they can't straighten out. This week, Zimmerman's father and brother have finally come out of their holes, but they've done George more harm than good.
This fantasy, or this mythology of that he chased a person is just absolutely false. He didn't chase anyone. He did not follow, nor did he ever catch up to Mr. Martin.
Are you following him? Yeah. Okay, we don't need you to do that.
We don't know if this is verifiable information, but he was on the phone with his girlfriend. I don't know if that's a police source, but I know his attorney at least holds up the girlfriend as a source and says, Trayvon told him, no, I'm not running. I'm going to walk real slow.
Except that's not what she said. She said that Trayvon told her he was going to walk fast, not slow.
We're confident the medical records are going to explain all of George's medical history, both how he was treated at the scene and
Except Zimmerman never was treated at the scene, because we now know that the ambulance that was dispatched for him never arrived. So George Zimmerman's whole story about paramedics patching him up is totally false, and his supporters' claims that EMTs cleaned him up before he got to the station is also another lie. George Zimmerman doesn't look hurt in that police video because he wasn't, and his lying brother knows this.
I know that one of the saddest things for him in this whole thing was that despite those screams, no one came to his aid. If someone had, heard them come out, shone a light on the situation, said, "Get out of here! What are you guys doing?"
We talked to a man who didn't want to be shown on camera, who witnessed part of the attack right here.
The guy on the bottom, who I believe had a red sweater on, was yelling to me, "Help, help!" I told him to stop, and I was calling 911.
So it seems someone did come to Zimmerman's aid after all. This is the Sanford PD's mystery witness, the guy the Sanford PD says proves Zimmerman was telling the truth. Problem is, he gets the facts of the case wrong. It was raining the night Zimmerman murdered Trayvon. If he had been on his back getting beaten, his neon red jacket would be covered in rain, mud, and grass. Instead, it's perfectly clean. And of course, by admitting he called out to Zimmerman, he disproves Zimmerman's pathetic little sob story that no one would help him. In their zeal to lie for Zimmerman, his supporters are helping to prove him guilty. They've created a maze of contradictory accounts, a maze that Zimmerman can't get through.
Because of that pain that he felt in particular, that he was screaming out so many times, I know that that's his voice. It sounds just like my voice. I mean, he's my brother. That's what I sound like if I yell.
And every time they tell their lies, the story just keeps getting better. Zimmerman said there was merely a fight, but his father says Trayvon told Zimmerman, "You're going to die." But they weren't through changing the story yet. George's brother went on CNN and told Piers Morgan that Trayvon said,
My father also is on record yesterday night saying that. And again, what Trayvon said was either to the effect of, I believe this is going to be easy, you die tonight, or you have a peace, you die tonight.
So now Trayvon Martin, who never assaulted anyone unlike Zimmerman, who has no criminal record unlike Zimmerman, who has never been in trouble with the law in his life unlike Zimmerman, is now a bloodthirsty killer? How convenient that they remember now, a month after the shooting, that Trayvon said, "I'm going to kill you," because that makes it where the imminent threat of death part of the law might actually apply to Zimmerman in this case at long last. Except it doesn't. But it does give them something they can try to peg a defense argument to, which is what they desperately need. Now, it's obvious they're lying through their teeth, desperately trying to manufacture an account of the night's events that they know didn't happen. This entire family is a pack of psychopaths. Now you see why Zimmerman has always been so bold in his violence. His family is a pack of liars who don't care about anyone but themselves. As a pathetic last-ditch effort, they are trying to tailor their story to fit the law. But even so, their lies only prove Zimmerman's guilt.
George was out of breath. He was barely conscious. His last thing he remembers doing was moving his head from the concrete to the grass.
If someone's banging your head against concrete and you're losing consciousness, how can you also remember with perfect clarity your attacker's words? Better yet, how can you be blacking out and also have the presence of mind to quickly and accurately pull a gun, aim it, and fire at your attacker's center mass? If you've been beaten bloody to within an inch of your life, why do you then turn right around and decline an ambulance? Then we have the curious case of Joe Oliver. This clown has been telling everyone that if Trayvon had just answered George Zimmerman's questions, then none of this would have happened. It's very strange he would say that, because that's not what George has been saying. He's been saying that Trayvon attacked him from behind.
What has come out that I can talk about today is that Trayvon Martin somehow snuck up on him.
Joe says he had a deep heart-to-heart conversation with Zimmerman before he decided to make a fool of himself in front of the world. So, that means either Zimmerman lied to the media or he lied to his good friend Joe Oliver.
Tell us now what you learned from George Zimmerman on Saturday that you did not know before your conversation with him. What was the turning point in your conversation with him that changed your understanding of this so that you could confidently come here and defend him about his actions in something you did not witness?
My conversation with George was between me and George.
You've claimed to have a conversation with him that changed your understanding of the facts, and now you want to go out publicly and say, I will not share with anyone what George Zimmerman told me to change my opinion of the facts so that I could go out and defend him. I don't want to hear your talking points that you've used on every show you've been on.
I wouldn't be here. I would not be risking myself.
How do you know that in your heart? How do you know in your heart?
Have you ever had a gut feeling?
You were not there.
Have you ever had a gut feeling?
You said on television that you know that was George Zimmerman's voice crying out for help. And you have only known George for 6 years, and you have only seen him in social situations. His mother told me that she is absolutely 100% sure that that is her son, and she has known that boy for 17 years. She has heard him cry many times from a child all the way up to 17. She is saying, are you saying that you know George Zimmerman's voice better than Trayvon's mother knows his voice?
I've listened carefully. You've said for you the entire thing, your entire view comes down to a gut feeling. That's all it is. And okay, and I'm glad you clarified that.
Not just a gut feeling.
Joe,
not
Joe,
just, look, can I ask you why it's a gut feeling and why I feel good about it? Because it's an instinctual thing.
Mr. Oliver, I'm just curious. You say you have known George Zimmerman for 6 years.
Yes, I have.
But you say you were close friends with George Zimmerman. However, he never shared with you.
Let's back up. I want because you're going to continue continue. You're going to continue mischaracterizing what I've said, because a lot of
you
times
were good friends with George Zimmerman. However, he never shared anything with you about his past, his violent past. He never shared with you whether or not he had been through any anger management courses. You said yesterday on television that you have not physically laid eyes on George Zimmerman since a week before this incident, and have not to this day. How can you claim that you are a close friend of George Zimmerman when none of that is true of you? You don't really know George Zimmerman if you don't know those things about George Zimmerman, and if you don't know where George Zimmerman is, and if you have not seen him in over a month, and you have been going out saying that George cannot stop crying, which you cannot verify because you were not there. You have been saying, nope, you have been saying that there are lacerations and his nose is broken, and only thing you know is what George may have told you because you were not there and you have not seen him for over a month. None of this rings true. You're playing people like they're stupid, and we're not.
We won't discuss the lunatic rantings of that Taffy clown. However, there is a reason why Frank Taffy is so willing to stick up for Zimmerman. The two have a lot in common. For starters, they both have a criminal record, and they both are guilty of multiple counts of domestic violence, usually against women. These are the people who call themselves vouching for George Zimmerman. And it's no accident that Piers Morgan, who himself was laughed out of British media, was carrying water for Zimmerman. With CNN's ratings in free fall, there's a lot of anchors in Atlanta hoping to get a gig over at Fox News. And everyone knows the fastest way to get on Rupert Murdoch's payroll is to show that you're an unabashed racist. Morgan was the first person to allow the Zimmerman camp to have a wide-reaching platform to spew their lies. He opened the floodgate by neither challenging nor refuting anything Robert Zimmerman said, even though it totally contradicted the facts and common sense. But Piers Morgan's quiet collusion with Trayvon Martin's murderer was only the beginning of the media assault.